Yeah, welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. This one, as you can see, comes at kind of an unusual time for me. Definitely had some thoughts about different topics going on in the sports world, and like I told you before, I try to do shows at just kind of different times to see what type of engagement I get and see who comes around to check it out and maybe expand the viewer and listener base. So definitely wanted to do that and give it a shot. But I'm gonna wait a few minutes, see if we get anybody else in here, and yeah, I definitely have some topics that I think will be pretty interesting today. As you can see from the thumbnail, going to talk some Isiah Thomas. Man, we'll get to it. Of course, going to talk some LeBron, right? He's always going to give us content. Going to talk some NFL, back to that. Dallas Cowboys and Trevor Lawrence. So, yeah, definitely got some good stuff to talk about, and want to make sure I get into that. And again, wanted to just try a different time of day and see how that goes. But let's go ahead. Looks like there's some people trickling in. So let's go ahead and let's do it. But before we get to that, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't. Yeah, man, definitely love it. Can't wait. Love to interact with all you guys, and love to get on the show and just kick the sports talk. So as I said, make sure that you're just helping me out here by making sure that you click on that like and subscribe, man. That's a bigger thing than a lot of people realize. So make sure you do that. Oh, and hit the share button too, man. If you know anybody that loves the sports talk and you think they might be interested in what I got to say, because obviously my perspective is different than a lot of what you hear in the mainstream sports media, man, hit that share button, man. Let's get some more people. Let's get some more people in the chat. And all right, cool. Let's get right to it, shall we? All right, cool. So Isiah Thomas, right? Since The Last Dance happened, and I feel so bad for him, right? Because Isiah Thomas, I think he's no question one of the greatest basketball players ever, right? He's probably top 20 in my book. He's not top 10, but he's definitely top 20. And I think he's truly the original great small guard in terms of being a leader and leading a team to a championship, right? We rarely see that from the small guys. It doesn't really happen. And so you're in a situation where you're Isiah Thomas and you go to the finals 3 years in a row. And you go through your time, right? You go through the Sixers, you go through the Celtics, you fight your way there, then you go through the Lakers, and then you go back to back, right? You beat the Lakers, and then you beat the Portland Trail Blazers with Clyde Drexler. That was a really good team. A lot of people forget how really good and well constructed that team was. But so you're a back-to-back champion. You won on every level: state champion in high school, national champion in national champion in college at Indiana under the legendary Bobby Knight, right? And so you come to the league and you fight. You help to build the program up, and you have an opportunity where you finally end up getting over the mountain. And so Isiah Thomas, since The Last Dance, clearly he didn't like the way he was being portrayed. Right now, obviously, you had to know kind of some of that was going to end up going that way because Michael Jordan had major, I guess, editorial control over that project. And realistically, that project was about Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls and how they were able to rise, climb the mountain, and then stay on top of the mountain until their last dance, which is the 1998 season. But Isiah Thomas, he was offended on the way that portrayed himself and his team, the Bad Boy Pistons. And he says, and I'm really, I don't want to call him a liar, but I'm really astounded by this. He says he had no idea that over all these years that there was problems between him and Michael Jordan. And I'm like, if you're Isiah Thomas, how could you not know that? But it is what it is. That's his take on this whole thing. So anyway, we've seen him on tons of interviews since then in the in the years in the interim. When was the last dance? During the pandemic. So that was 2020. Now it's 2024. We've seen him on lots of interviews, and this stuff always comes up, and I think a lot of it is unfortunately trying to save what he believes is a damaged legacy, right? And I've done shows on Isiah Thomas before in terms of just how incredible a player he was when he was in his prime. I mean, this dude was he 6'1", 6'2" at most, and he literally was dominant, right? He averages for his career about 19 and a half points and 9.3 assists per game. Now, some people are going to look and say, how was he dominant? He only averaged 19 and a half points. But no, it was a totally different game back then. The defense was real. Violations were called. It was a big man's game. And he was like the first small guard to be the number one player on a team and to win a championship. And what he kind of thinks is his claim to fame is he says he's the only guy that beat Magic, Bird, and Jordan all in their primes. And well, I'll definitely give that he beat Bird and Magic in their primes. He might have caught Michael Jordan right before his prime, but still that Michael Jordan that he caught that he was beating was like a Superman. But even still, Isiah Thomas, he can rightfully say he's the only guy to do that. But I think what's even more so impressive to me is that not only did he do that, but in kind of doing some research for this show, I didn't realize he did that all in the same year, which to me is crazy, right? So when 88, 89 season, he wins his first championship, and 87, 88, 88, 89, he wins his first championship. And to do it, he has to go through Bird and the Celtics in the East. He has to go through Jordan and the Bulls in the East. And then he beats Magic Johnson and the Los Angeles Lakers coming out of the West. And so, to say that he was the guy who was able to do that all in one season, like, that's crazy. That's 3 of the all-time best ever. And in my estimation, that's 3 of the top 5 ever. And you beat them all in one playoff run. Like, that's absurd. Now, if we're being honest, right, we got to make sure we include all the facts. I think Magic played like 70 minutes in that final series. I think he pulled a hamstring really badly and he couldn't go anymore. So there's that. But I will definitely say, credit to Isiah for what he did. And then not just that, right? Because remember, the year before, the Pistons had gone to the NBA Finals and they had lost to the Lakers. And that was the year of Isiah Thomas's legendary Game 6 performance on that badly swollen ankle, where I think he had 25 points in that third period. And that's just the stuff of legend. If you go back and watch it, you'll be astounded. But even still, Isiah Thomas, he did his thing there. The Pistons lose that series on a heartbreaker in Game 7. And then they say, okay, they come back even better than ever the following year. I think they swept the Lakers in the finals, so he wins his first championship. And now not only that, they come back a third year in a row. And then they beat the Portland Trail Blazers, who had knocked out the Lakers in the West. So 3 times in a row, he's in the finals, and they end up winning the championship. So Isiah is all-time great. Let's see. What's up, Lou? Lou says, LeBron has discredited the entire sport of basketball. His legacy is WNBA being the NBA in ratings because the NBA is now WWE, where the standard has been obliterated for entitlement. Wow. That's serious. But yeah, there might be some legitimate truth to that, man. So yeah, so back to Isiah, right? The thing is, back to Isiah, the thing is, and what's my man? It's not that serious. Yes, sir. I'm live, bro. I'm live right now. Yeah, man. Thanks for checking in. Yeah, so back to Isiah. So the thing is, Isiah Thomas, all-time great, top 10 in assists all time. And remember, this is a guy who only played, I think, 12 or 13 years in the league, right? Careers were shorter back then, as we know, because the game was so much more physical. Now, yeah, Isiah Thomas retires top 10. He's still top 10 all time in assists, and I'm sure somebody's going to pass him because these guys are just playing longer now, right? But he's top 10 in assists. He's, in my estimation, the second best point guard who ever played. It's Magic and then Isiah. But anyway, again, all-time great. But the problem is, because of The Last Dance, because of Michael Jordan and everything else that's involved, and some, I guess, off-the-floor issues that he's had since he's retired, his legacy as an all-time great player, unfortunately, has been, it's been tarnished, right? And so I actually did a show, and I think it's called if you go back and look on the channel, I think it shows Isiah is a winner, but he can't win this. And by this, I say he can't win a battle of himself versus Michael Jordan in the court of public opinion. He just can't. And so, he's just got to leave that be. But all of that aside, Isiah Thomas was recently interviewed, I think, and he was kind of asked, he was on, I think, Kevin Durant's podcast. And one of the things they were asking him was like, if he thinks that he could play today and win today. And I was like, before I even heard his comments, I thought that was a really silly question to ask. But I guess it's one of those questions you ask when you're hosting a podcast to kind of get your podcast guests to open up and say what they have to say, and really give you some talking points and some good dialogue. Because I'm like, if you know anything about basketball, that's an utterly ridiculous question to ask. Can Isiah Thomas play today? And I'm sure there are some people, younger people, who disrespect the previous generations, as the NBA is wont to do, and as the NBA media, for whatever reason, seems to push that narrative. But they will say that Isiah Thomas wasn't that good and he couldn't play today and blah, blah, blah. And we'll get a little bit into that. But first, let's go ahead and listen to what he had to say on that podcast with Kevin Durant. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about it, unpack it a little bit.
How do you feel you'd fit in this era? Because you're somebody I think would be dominant in today's basketball. Like, I know people will point and say, you made less than 400 threes in your career. But that doesn't mean you wouldn't be shooting them today. Like, how do you handle as great as yours, ability to get anything off the dribble, ability to get to the cup? I just feel like you're tailor-made for this era.
So this is where Kevin and I are very similar, because I'm gonna run down some numbers to you. So and so when you go back and you look at my 1990 NBA Finals, I still think I hold the record for the highest percentage in terms of three-point shooting in the final series. And you can go back and look it up. Now, somebody would say, well, you only took, I think I was 16 for 20, right? And they said, well, you only took 23s. That's your short sample size. And I said, well, we only played 5 games.
You got their ass out of there. That's why.
That's for a game. But anyway, would I been able to make 3-point shots? Of course. In this era, would I been able to get to the basket? Of course. What type of team would I be on? That would be different, So the way I won in the 80s, we would need a little bit more skill level from our power forward position, or than what we had. But our guard, me, Benny, and Joe, we would be okay in this era.
Do you think that was enough size though? Because y'all all under 6'3", 6'4", right? Especially today when wings, 6'7", long arms, you think that'd have been enough size?
If you standing out at the 3-point line, I think I'll be all right. you posted my little ass up. But if you out there at the 3-point line, and I can slide and move and everything. Now when you jump up, I'm like everybody else. I ain't got I can't mess. But Kevin, we're not talking about you.
I ain't trying. I'm just saying.
No, we talking about everybody else, right? I'm saying, as a defensive guard at the 3-point line, would I be able to guard and defend out on the perimeter? I made my living doing that. I'm saying if I can win in that era, I will win in this one.
So I love what Isiah had to say there. So first, let me correct him real quick. He wasn't 16 of 20 in that finals run, in that final series. He was 11 of 16. So cool. So he definitely was hot. Now, if you look at it, I think Isiah Thomas is like 30% or slightly under 30% from three from his career. But again, back then, the 3-point shot was not an integral part of basketball like it is today. Guys just didn't shoot him as much. So he's saying, yeah, of course, if I played today, I'd be able to make the 3. Of course, would I be able to get to the rim today? Now, you saw on the clips that I was showing earlier about Isiah Thomas how the defense was tougher on him, but he was able to get to the rim. He was able to get into the paint. He was better in the mid-range. Also, obviously, back then at the paint, there were more big men, whether it's power forwards or centers, shot blockers. Now we see, again, I talk about it all the time, with the way the floor is spread, guys, once they beat their first man, they generally have a free path to the basket. And that's why the pick and roll is such a major part of today's NBA game, right? Nino says Isiah Thomas was one of the coldest and would be considered better today. I would hope so. But there's a lot of disrespectful people out there who might disagree. See, Sid Bubba says, my MJ respects Isiah as a talent regardless of his personal feelings. And yeah, that's true. Because I believe he said he's the second best point guard of all time. And he always speaks well of Isiah as a basketball player. But, personally, he doesn't like him. Transformer, what up, bro? Nobody should saying Isiah couldn't play today. If they do, they need to be mentally evaluated. Now, you say that, but good and darn well, there's a whole bunch of people out there that believe that if you weren't playing before 2003, that you can't play, you have no athletic ability, you're a bum, plumber, fireman, electrician, all this other crap. You know that, and I know that. We hear it all the time. That's why shows like ours and many other shows out here, we got to go ahead and pay homage and also dispel the nonsense, right? That's what we're there for. Sid Bubba says Joe Dumars was great. Yes, he was. And for whatever reason, he's not a Hall of Famer, which I think is strange because darn near everybody gets in the Hall of Fame in basketball. So I don't know what the deal was with that. What do we got? Guys like Trey exist in the NBA. IT would have no problem fitting in. No, I agree. Again, they would probably encourage him to take more threes. But if you look at it, Rondo was a killer in this NBA, and he didn't take a lot of threes. But Isiah being Isiah, I'm sure he would learn that. It's insane to me that LeBron has succeeded to change the measure of greatness to just compiling regular season stats instead of winning. Yeah, that is the power of LeBron and Clutch Sports and the mainstream sports media and Nike. They have all come together to push this. Why? Because they know that they needed this argument with LeBron and Jordan. It just works better for all the money that they have pumped into this guy from the beginning. It just works better to push that narrative. So yeah, absolutely. Because it's insane to me. I've never seen before how we can just gloss over so many finals losses, right? Because Jerry West, he didn't win 4 championships. He only won 1, but he lost 8 times in the finals, right? Most people don't even have Jerry West as a top 10 player all time. Why? Because of the losing. But somehow LeBron gets to bypass that. And anyway, this is not about LeBron. This is about Isiah. But let's see. LeBron, second time, All right. So here's the thing. Andre, what's good, man? I haven't seen you before. If you're here, make sure you go ahead, click that like and subscribe for me, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for checking into the channel. Got a lot of content here, man. Check it out and see what else you like on the channel. And make sure to share. Share button's powerful. Anyway, Andre, Zeke was nice for first short guard. Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I guess we could go back further and say maybe Bob Cousy was the first short guard, but he wasn't the leader of those Celtics teams. Bill Russell was, but totally get it. Totally get what you're saying. But yeah, Zeke was that guy, man. And again, the lack of respect that he's given in terms of his ability to play and to be, the guy, especially at that size, is very unusual, right? He was the first guy to truly get it done and win championships, and now Steph, right? Obviously, Allen Iverson was the guy on his team, but he couldn't get over the top to win chips. Tiny Archibald, yeah, that's a good one, Sid Bubba. I'm trying to think if he won anything. I don't think Tiny Archibald won. He did lead the league in scoring and assists in the same season, which is absolutely absurd on the NBA level. But I don't think he ever won a championship, but he was super nice. All right. So yeah, Isiah, man, I love the fact that you're confident in your ability. And I also believe that if he played today, he'd be able to win today because he was just that good, man. Like, could you imagine? Yeah, he's not going to be a 3-point shooter, but I'm sure that he would work on that. But imagine if we had a time machine and we could transport prime Isiah Thomas into the modern NBA, how he would be destroying these dudes. He'd be killing them on defense, and they wouldn't be able to stop him on offense. They wouldn't know what to do with him. He would get a lot of layups, I'll tell you that. And, give him a year, and I bet you he'd be shooting the three at probably about 35%. Is he ever going to be Steph Curry or Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf? No. Is he ever going to be Mark Price? No, he's not that pure shooter, but he would get to a respectable level, and then it would really be over. And we got to remember, as a distributor, he's one of the best all time. I think his top season in terms of assists per game. Let me look at it right here. His where are we? His number one season in terms of assists per game, right? 13.9. So this guy averaged 14 assists per game one year. Like, that is crazy. And remember, these are not even those Pistons teams. No one thinks of those as great offensive teams, right? Up and down, but he had it going, man. He had it going. Okay, Sid Bubba, thank you. I didn't realize Tiny Archibald was on that championship team. Yep, 81. Okay, that was Bird's second year. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize he was on that team. There you go. Thank you for correcting me, man. I appreciate you. Yeah. Nino, you're right, man. They don't know Zeke had real playground handles. And it's crazy because what I love to point out, you go back and you watch Zeke's, handles when it comes to dribbling. First of all, this nonsense that guys back then didn't have great handles is totally ridiculous, right? Because one, and if you listen to Kenny Smith's interview on Come and Talk to Me podcast with Mark Jackson, really fantastic interview, he's going to tell you back then, guys weren't allowed to play with the ball that way. One, the defenders would take it from you because the defenders were really, really good. And two, coaches were like, yo, just get into your move, get where you need to be on the floor. You don't need to be playing around with it. This is not Harlem Globetrotters. Like, you doing that, you're not going to, it's just a waste of time and a waste of seconds on the clock that you could be actually running offense, right? Because offenses back then everything wasn't just pick and roll, and everything wasn't just, trying to get into one-on-one situations for ISO, right? Like it is today. And the floors weren't as spread. So they was like, yo, listen, stop playing with the ball. So Kenny Smith talks about how guys back then had the crazy handles, but what you would have to do is maybe go to one of those tournament games in the summer, or go out to the Rucker or wherever it is, and then you would see what guys could do, and you would be shocked by it, right? Kenny Anderson, one of the sickest ball handlers ever. People don't even realize that, right? Kenny Anderson, and the aforementioned Tiny Archibald, and of course Isiah Thomas, so on and so forth, Tim Hardaway Sr., all that. A lot of great ball handlers back then, but guess what? They weren't playing with the ball, and guys back then weren't allowed to carry, and they weren't allowed to travel, so it looks a lot different, right? So we gotta keep that, in context and take it into account when we talk about this stuff. Let's see. Andre says, not literally the first, but he was the first with handle and a game offensively. His D was average. No, I think he was a very good defender. The problem is his defense is overshadowed by Joe Dumars, who's one of the better perimeter defenders of all time, and obviously Dennis Rodman, who's one of the better front court defenders of all time. But no, Isiah Thomas was definitely a defender for a couple of reasons. One, he went to college at Indiana, and the general, Bobby Knight, you weren't getting on the floor if you didn't defend. And he was there, I want to say 2 or 3 seasons. So you're not gonna get on the floor if you don't play defense. So you had to play man defense. And then back then in the NBA, everybody was playing man defense as well. So it's hard to recollect an example of Isiah Thomas getting cooked up. So he was doing this. Okay, so Isiah Thomas, man, I definitely think he would win. I feel bad for the fact that he is consistently doing everything he can to try and save his legacy, but I think he needs to sit back, rest on the fact that he is, wherever you have him, he's clearly a top 5 point guard of all time. Again, I have him at number 2. He's clearly a top 20 player of all time, of the 5,000 players that have ever played in the NBA. He's clearly a winner, one of few guys to win back-to-back championships and make 3 straight NBA finals. He's one of those guys. Could have been a three-peat, who knows? If not for the phantom foul, Bill Laimbeer on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and then Kareem Abdul-Jabbar sinks the free throws at the end of Game 6. The Pistons could have won that, and who knows how history would have looked at him, because at that point, Magic then would have ended his career with 4 championships and not 5. Isiah ends his career with 3 championships instead of 2. 3 and 2 doesn't seem like a huge gap, but when you look at it championship-wise, all of a sudden that does change a lot. It really is different because, again, not a lot of guys have back-to-back titles, but 3 championships, not a lot of great players have 3 championships. There's a lot of great players that only have 1. So it's just it's totally different thing. But yeah, I wish there was some way that Isiah's legacy could be restored as a basketball player. I wish that there was some way people would appreciate his greatness more, man. But we got what we got, and Isiah is just going to have to sit back and accept that. And again, to the point of this particular video, would he win today? Absolutely, he would win today. Would he dominate today? Absolutely, he would dominate today. I think he would kill most of these guards out here. They wouldn't know what to do with him. So, Nino, Bruce, he's still mad your boy left him off that dream team. Speak on it. Tell the truth. Yeah, so it's a fact, Nino. You're absolutely right, 100%. So Scottie Pippen talked about it. It's I think it's also in the book When the Game Was Ours by Jackie McMullen about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. And so what people don't realize, Michael Jordan, he gets all the, I'm not going to say the credit, but he gets scapegoated for the reason Isiah didn't make that team. And he was a big part of it. Because it's out there, basically that I think Mike said something along the lines, a loose quote here. If Isiah is on the team, I'm not playing. I don't remember the exact quote, but and you can listen to the podcast. I think it's called the Dream Team Tapes, really good podcast series. And it actually talks about that at one point, but really good podcast series about the first Dream Team, who, by the way, is, yes, the greatest basketball team ever assembled. And I will brook no argument on that. But anyway, yeah, so Michael Jordan played a huge role in that. But what a lot of people don't know is that Magic Johnson also was in on keeping Isiah off the Dream Team. And that's crazy, right? You think, because Isiah and Magic were really tight. But the reason that happened was when Magic made his announcement that he was HIV positive. This is what, after the 91 season? Yeah, after the 91 season. So when Magic made his announcement that he was HIV positive, remember, at that time, there was a lot of ignorance when it came to HIV and AIDS. And, a lot of people were under the impression that it was just a disease that was carried by gay men, which obviously is not true. And so when Magic made his announcement that he was HIV positive, Isiah Thomas was reported to have, said something to the effect of, or possibly started a rumor that Magic Johnson was bisexual. And Magic took that. He didn't like that at all. And that's what kind of froze up Magic and Isiah's friendship for probably the next 20, 25 years. And so Magic was involved in keeping Isiah Thomas off of that Dream Team as well. So it's unfortunate. But it's so interesting, though, that even though Magic was involved in that, Michael Jordan is the guy who gets scapegoated for it. But it is what it is, right? Let's see. So, yeah, that's the whole story, Nino, of why he's still frustrated. But yeah, he's frustrated about that, Nino, but he's also frustrated again with the way he was portrayed and the way his bad boys were portrayed in The Last Dance. And also, I think he's frustrated with the fact that, much like his career, he doesn't feel his bad boys get their due respect as one of the greatest championship teams of all time. Because again, that's one of the few teams that went to 3 straight NBA finals. They managed to win 2 of them. Could have been, a three-peat, but he feels like they don't get their respect because they weren't aesthetically pleasing enough for the NBA. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. So it's tough, man. Exactly, Lou. When Magic made his announcement, Isiah publicly implied that he might be gay. I think it was bisexual, but, right. So anyway, let's see. Zeke 1-1 with Magic and Byron Scott hurt, so that's sweep. So that ring just like the LeBron James bubble ring. No, Magic played, I think, the first game and a half of that series. Byron Scott was hurt, but at the end of the day, man, I think healthy or not, because Kareem had just retired, I believe. Healthy or not, I think those Pistons, man, they were primed, they were ready, they win that series. I truly believe that. Isiah also said that Bird was just, so that was an interesting comment. Bird was just good because he was white. If Larry Bird was black, people would not think he was good. No, they said that he said, because Dennis Rodman was the first guy who made that comment. And so Isaiah's been asked many times about this over the years. And he said he was just sticking up for his teammate when he said, I agree with Rodman. And also, man, you can't necessarily take what guys say fresh off a devastating loss, right? Because emotions are running high. You're not necessarily thinking, but regardless, there's going to be cameras in your face and all that. But yeah, he says, I agree with Rodman. I think he said something to the effect of Larry Bird's a really good player, but if he was black, they would think he's just another good guy. But he did give Larry Bird his props for being an all-time great. And to to say is a good thing for Bird, Bird also said, man, I'm not worried about any of that stuff. I'm sure he got that his whole life because Bird loved going against brothers, and he made it plain that he knew that black players were the best players. That's why he was always looking to play against them. I'm sure you all heard the stories, if you love basketball, about Larry Bird, yelling at opposing coaches like not to put this white guy on me because it disrespects my game. So crazy. Yeah, exactly, Sid Bubba. That was the Dennis Rodman quote. But Isiah Thomas did back him up when they asked him about it. He said, I'd have to agree with Rodman. So, but again, that's him backing up his teammate. Now, in that exact moment, I don't know how he kind of gets around that, but, it probably should have just been, listen, Rodman's his own man. He has his own thoughts, and, I'm not going to comment on what one of my teammates thinks. That's it. But, yeah, so let's see. Because of the way guys played, they see the bad boys as having disgraced the game and almost cheated, and they've had to carry that all those. Yeah, I think so. But at the end of the day, that was still an outstanding team, just locked down defensively. They were physically, and really, did they almost cheat? They didn't do anything against the rules, right? At that time, what they were doing was not against the rules. They just took it right to the edge of super physicality. So that is what it is, man. And I don't think that we should. I don't believe that we should take anything away from the bad boys and their greatness during that stretch. I don't. All right. So what I want to do now, that's me talking about Isiah and his comments on being able to win today in the modern NBA, which, again, I truly think that he would be able to. And I just wish that he could get his due for his level of greatness. So what I want to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to open up the phone lines, because you all know that I love to take comments from you guys. And let's see, I will put, oh man, I haven't had this on the whole time. Nobody told me. I'll put the number on the bottom, 904-219-8264. I'll also put it in the chat, and I would love for you guys to call in, give your thoughts on that. And yeah. Let's get it. 904-219-8264. Numbers in the chat, and it is also scrolling on the bottom of your screen. All right, what we got here? Anyone who tells the truth is called hate. He said the magic word, hater. Let's see those 90s Knicks if you want to see physical. Yeah. I think the 90s Knicks were the follow-up incarnation of the bad boys. They were super physical. Yeah. So no calls on this. Definitely wanted to hear you guys' thoughts on Isiah and whether or not you believe that he would be able to be the type of player that he was back then if he played today. Definitely want to get you guys' thoughts on that. And also, before we move on to the next topic, what I would love to hear from you guys, and you could put it in the chat if you're not able to or don't feel like calling. Put in the chat who you think is the best point guard in the league today and how you think they would match up against Isiah Thomas. Definitely would love to hear that. And I'm trying to think. I want to say, because I like traditional point guards, I want to say Chris Paul is probably still the best point guard in the league in terms of traditional point guards, but maybe Shai Gilgeous is probably the best point guard in the game today, because he can score, he can defend, he can pass. Like, he doesn't have a whole lot of weakness. Who would you compare Zeke to in today's game? Oh, man. I don't think I would, but I think just because he's a traditional point guard, like I said, Chris Paul is probably the closest argument that you could make. Rondo's gone. Yeah, because today's point guards they're so much score first. They're very, very score oriented. So I don't, and don't get me wrong, Zeke could score. We know that, but he wasn't a score first guard. He was a point guard in the mold of run the team and distribute the rock and do all those things. But that's a great question. I guess a guy still playing, it would probably be Chris Paul, but yeah, I don't think there's really a comparison in today's game for Isiah Thomas. Can't really see it, but that was a great question though.